was studying psychology. I was studying somatic psychology. So I was learning so much about everything we've been talking about here. And I started making the goals of my courses choice, conscious choice. And so the goal of getting on a rock climb was not to get to the top. It was to notice what are your choices and how do you feel about them and how are you making them? Are you making them out of peer pressure? Are you making them because your body's giving you information? And what's it like to honor your choice? And often what I found was when people were pushed to get to the top of the climb or get to the top of the challenge course, get through, they would go in some people would go into a freeze response and overwhelm or have a panic attack. But when their boundaries were honored, the majority of people would come down, they'd take some breaths, and they'd go, wait a minute, let me try again.
Welcome to the Everyday Epigenetics Raw, Real, Relatable podcast. I'm your host, Susan Robbins, epigenetic human performance coach. This is where we discuss all things lifestyle, environment, food, exercise, work, mind, and social interaction as they pertain to epigenetic expression in a way that's relatable to everyone. So if you're ready to start viewing you as an individual, take control of your life and health, and get results, buckle up, here we go. Welcome to the Everyday Epigenetics Raw, Real, Relatable podcast. I am your host, Susan Robbins, and this is where we talk about everything lifestyle and environment and how it relates to our genetic expression. Today is going to be a fun one and something that I definitely relate to. Mind-body connection, but also nature and how it can impact us and impact our genetic expression. It's so powerful. And I think people are just like, "Oh, I'm just going to go outside." But you really have no idea how much it's turning up some good genes and dialing back some crappy ones. And so our talk today is going to be around somatic therapy, which is mind and body. And I'm going to have my guests describe that because this is new to me. And then nature therapy. So this is my jam. Actually, it was Kate. She's a friend of Kate's, and when Kate had to step away from the podcast, and she said, "You need to still interview her because she's talking about nature therapy." And it took me like a fraction of a second to say, I'm totally in. Everybody here knows when I have a day, I'm like into the mountains. This is where I get my ideas. Like it's just so powerful in so many ways, and you find peace. So my guest today is Katie Asmus. She is a licensed psychotherapist, life coach, teacher, mentor, and wilderness guide with over 25 years of professional experience working with people in and out of the wilderness. Katie incorporates the mind-body connection, the natural world, expressive arts, and contemplative awareness into her work with others. She works with individuals as well as groups to bring forth their innate wisdom and to support them in opening their minds and hearts to greater. That translates to greater health and overall quality of life. So
Yes.
welcome and thank you for joining me, Miss Katie.
Thank you. So honored to be here and excited to have this conversation with you.
Me too. I've been pumped up for this. So tell us a bit, because you have a pretty cool story. Tell us first, let's start with what is somatic therapy? Because again, this is new to me and I went to Google. What's somatic therapy? I had an idea, but I didn't want to sound stupid, but I'm just being open. So let's tell us a bit about that and then how you got into it.
Great. So, somatic therapy, actually, I realize that is what I usually call myself, a somatic therapist. And that term, really, in the most general term, means any kind of therapeutic work that includes the body mind connection. So, even you could say body workers are somatic therapists. But I'm a somatic psychotherapist. And really, well, I got my degree. I got my master's degree in somatic psychology with an emphasis in dance therapy from Naropa University, started in 1997 there. And I came out of doing a lot of outdoor work, so being just very physically active myself, also doing a lot of dance my whole life growing up for fun and some performance. And so when I was looking at becoming a counselor, a therapist, I was looking at all the holistic programs and thought, oh my goodness, to include the body, the wisdom of the body, this
Mm.
seems like a no-brainer. There's so much more of our being that gets included when we are including the wisdom of the body. And that could look so many different ways. At this when I started in 1997, somatic therapy was considered woo-woo. Since then, there has been actually quite a bit of research. Bessel van der Kolk has been one of the pioneering researchers that first really started putting money and kind of energy into researching the benefits. And now I would say it's become much more popular, sought after. Some modalities like somatic experiencing, Peter Levine's work has become quite popular. Internal family systems parts work also includes noticing the body,
Ah.
what emotions or sensations come up. Hakomi therapy is really big in this part of the country and also different places around the world. And EMDR therapy is often referred to as a somatic therapy because we're allowing the energy really to move through the body. So in its widest really definition and form, it's honoring and acknowledging that the body and mind are 100% inexplicably connected. And that when we honor what's happening somatically, we just have access to so much more information, wisdom, etc.
And you had brought up awareness and how it brings awareness in, and then you said about disconnection. Don't you think that so many people, and I don't know if it's due to technology, they're disconnected not only with other people other than through a phone, right? Like through some device, they're disconnected with other people, but also themselves. And I
Yes.
find that with a lot of people that I work with too, the first thing I'll ask is, "How connected are you with your mi" actually, it's in the one platform I use, an AI-based epigenetic platform, and that's one of the questions. How connected are you with your
What?
mind and body? And the amount of people that say, "Not very," or "Not at all," is astounding.
Yes, I agree. I think with the rise of technology, with screens, you and I grew up with very little to know of that. And now the 1 year olds know how to use iPads. So there's something about the focus of screens that often do take us away from our somatic awareness. And I like to say to my clients, this is our first language. When we were born, our whole experience of the world was how we felt in our body, right? When babies are calm and fed and they giggle and they smile and coo. And when they're irritated, when something doesn't feel good, they cry and fuss and scream. And so I say this was our first language. And over time, people told you not to trust that, not to listen to that, big girls don't cry, whatever the messages were. And so we learned over time to not trust, not listen to, keep things at bay. And the good news is we all have this capacity. And really, the more that we get curious, bring in awareness, listen to what's happening, we can recover this language, recover this skill. And again, really have access to more of our aliveness and life experience.
Because it's quality of life. If
Yes.
you were stunted from feeling this, it's affecting how you're viewing yourself in the world and what you're putting out there, and you're not really fully present. And if we're not present, then we're just existing through, and that's not living.
Like tolerating, existing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, you say those words, and we're both like, if you guys could, if you're just listening and not watching, if you could see us, we're like, ugh, like even our body language. Just when we say this, just
Oh,
existing, tolerating, there's the body language. And I
yeah.
do this a lot with people too. I say, think of the words you're using. I'm buried. I'm so busy. I'm just exhausted. Like all these things of these stress words. But when you say, I'm choosing to be this, or I'm just doing this, I need to work with this. Like even how you're saying it, I don't even think about what my body's doing. The body reacts in a totally different way.
Yes, yes, and that's one of the things in somatic therapy. a huge piece is that I have been trained to listen to my own body and learn that what's happening here often is giving me information about what's going on for my client. And I'm always being curious, of course, not assuming something. But just like you said, there's also so much that happens even in movement, in visuals, as we're talking about these different emotions. And that's so apparent about our relationship with these emotions or with these experiences in life. Do we shut them down and tighten our muscles, or do we let it move and flow and express? And so, really, including all of that really supports health, growth, healing, wholeness.
Yeah, when you're stuffing that stuff inside, that's creating so much issue around things like vagus nerve, right? For the central nervous system, automatic nervous system. And
Yeah.
for some people, it might be more of a brain issue, brain not shutting off. For others, it might really affect them in their gut. We see all this like digestive issues. And there's just so many ways the different things can affect. One thing I picked up on that you said is like around women saying big girls don't cry. Do you notice anything with the different genders and how that creates issues with women being told to toughen up? So the feminine side, it's and I think so many nowadays, I don't need anybody, I don't need a man, I can do this world on my own. And it becomes this toughness, but that's not inherently who we are. And then on the flip side, the men. It would started out with don't cry, be tough, and now it's you have to be vulnerable, don't be masculine, but their insides are going, I want to open the car door and I want to lead, I want to take her and lead her.
Yeah.
And so do you see this at all with kind of conflicting things with people?
Yeah, I think there's so much in what you just said. And I think one is the different societal messages that we get around, which is both often gender associated and also culture and family associated. So
Yes.
in some families, it's okay to cry, but it's not okay to get angry. And in other families, it's okay to get angry and have a fight, but it's seen as weak to cry. So I think we're so influenced by what is acceptable, what's not acceptable. And to back up, there we use this word in therapy that's theoretical orientation. And at its basis, really what that means is as a therapist, so my theoretical orientation is somatic. What do we believe creates health? What do we believe creates illness or dis-ease? And then based on that, what is the pathway toward health and healing? And so from a somatic perspective, at the like most simplistic level, health is flow. It's energy flow, whether that's movement, breath, emotion, that when we let life, we are energy, right? Energy is in motion all the time. And so when we let that move through, there are waves, there are highs, there are lows, all the different things, but it keeps changing and we can trust that. Dis-ease is when we stop the flow. So we hold our breath, we tighten our muscles, we push it down. And when we do that, to your point, what you were speaking to before, we create dis-ease, disease in the system. And that could look so many different ways depending
Right.
on how our bodies hold energy, hold tension, stop the flow. It can really manifest in thousands of ways. But so, from a somatic therapy perspective, what we're doing is bringing in enough safety, trust, psychoeducation so that we can start to let go of those, even notice and let go of those habituated ways of holding, even ways of shaming ourselves, all the different things that hold us back so that we can open up the flow, let the movement happen. Often that's very scary for people, especially when they've been holding it back for so long. But when we can open to that flow, whether it's a big cry or a yell or an exhale, typically what happens is there's a completion. It's like a wave. And at the end of the completion, there's a relief. There's even often a feeling of that's really good, like after a good run or good workout of some sort. And then that's part of the way we start to also gain ongoing trust in our own bodies, in the wisdom of this movement and energy.
I don't think people realize enough how much the situations we stay in or the things we think, how much disease, like you said, it creates in the body until you start to let some of that go. And then it's like all of a sudden, some of these ailments,
Yeah.
because you might be doing all the other things you're supposed to do, but if you can't let go and
Right.
create some awareness around what's happening with you, it's amazing the change. And when you talk health is flow, and if people were watching, they see me doing like that. Yes, yes, I'm praising you here. With my work, we talk about being in flow, like in your epigenetic flow, living according to how you are created. And I've had clients come to work with me, and I say, You're just out of flow, but we can get you into flow." Now, I do it differently, right? I'm working on all the lifestyle, you're working on the awareness, but either way, there's flow, right? They go together really well. And so I'll say and I had them say, "I don't know what you mean." I'm going, "You will." Because when you start to get into that flow, and there's a little saying I have here, so I got a ring, a little wave ring, and thought the saying was so cool. You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to move with them.
Ooh, yes.
They may not always take you in the direction that you had planned, but they will take you exactly where you're meant to be. So the more you pay attention, because when we're fighting these things, like you're saying with the awareness, and I say when you're so out of flow, and we want to create that flow, you're like you're saying about the waves up and down, and you're just smashing against your boat against those waves when you're resisting and holding in, holding
Yes.
back, or just like fighting your natural tendencies because of societal, family, religion, whatever. And and again, you were spot on with that. That's where the dis-ease and disease
Yes.
begins. And when you can let that go and realize that, move with the flow, you will have ups and downs and start to feel that how your body is processing that. And then you learn I don't have to smash up against the waves. I can actually just hold on and go over them. And it's funny to see people, including myself, if you especially if you're going through a situation and you are even if you are aware, and then all of a sudden it's just emotion comes out and you're like, "I have no idea where that came from. It just
Yeah.
happened." But to not hold it back.
And one of the things in somatic therapy that I often talk about and teach, I do a lot of teaching of therapists and practitioners, is that when we have enough relative safety in our bodies, in our environments, we naturally start to relax. And when we start to relax, often what happens is that habituated tension, the holding patterns start to come out through often crying or shaking. And in those moments, there's not necessarily any content, but there's just simply enough safety and exhale that the body starts releasing, and that can create fear for people. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I shaking? Why am I crying? And so to understand and help normalize and just to bring in that trust and safety and say, this is old tension patterns leaving your body. This is old stress, old nervous system holding that's actually releasing right now. Let that move.
So, what are some ways that you work with people? How do you take somebody through working with somatic therapy
Yeah.
and creating the awareness and flow?
Great. So I do have a bit of a roadmap. And the first piece is that I will introduce to people what I do and talk about the body mind connection and assess what is their relationship like with that. And then I very like practically assess their relationship with it and ask them about how do you have awareness of your sensations? And so we do a little kind of practice. I even say, can you feel your foot resting down on the floor? Can you? Because sometimes, very often, people will say, I don't have much or I don't know.
So I was wondering if you saw more of that "I have no idea" kind of thing?
Yeah, I would say that's more common than not. Or people be like, "I do yoga, so I have some." And so then I'll say, "Can you feel the bottom of your foot resting down?" "Yes." "Can you feel your hand on your leg?" "Yes." "Okay, great. So you do have somatic awareness. You probably just haven't been paying attention." If the answer is no, that is pretty significant. That just points to that most likely people have significant trauma in their lives, and there's a level of kind of freeze or dissociation. But we can assess, is it just that we haven't been paying attention, or is it because life has actually been really, really scary? And then either way, for me, the first step of psychotherapy, for somatic psychotherapy, is helping people grow their connection to their somatic awareness. And so at the beginning of every session, we always start with some kind of grounding, some kind of somatic awareness to be skill building. And then with that, before we go into consciously any stress or any trauma or things that are hard, what I want to help people do is connect with resource. So anything that helps us feel good or better than we did before. And then with that, when we connect with resource, which could be thinking about someone we love, looking out and seeing the mountain out the window, feeling a place that feels calm in our body. So anything that helps us feel better. Once we find that, the next step is to grow capacity to stay connected to a good feeling in the body and to tolerate feeling good. So, especially when we've experienced ongoing stressful situations, whether that's just low level tension in the environment or maybe bigger traumatic experiences, what happens is our survival brain gets activated. We become hyper vigilant. I like to say the survival brain says, I'm not going to let this happen to you again, and starts
Mhm.
scanning the environment for danger. And the challenge is when we start to relax or feel good, that part of our brain kicks in and goes, no, 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 don't relax. Don't relax. Something bad's going to come out of nowhere. So it off from, I would say, most people, there is a whole part of our work that is recognizing those habits in the nervous system, how the wait, don't rest, or don't feel good for too long, and there are different nuances of that. And then we start to work that edge of coming back, being with the good, taking a breath, taking two breaths, and even ways of working with kind of the reptilian brain to let it look around and check out what's happening now, come into the present moment, if in the room, in the space that we're in, to see, "Oh, can you relax right now even for this hour that we're together?" So that's huge, actually, that whole piece. And then once people can tolerate feeling resource, feeling good, then we're gonna go more into any kind of more stressful, challenging material that they wanna work with, because then we can start to practice to pendulate going back and forth between the stressor and the resource, which again, like I was speaking to before, helps the body recognize on an implicit level, right, on an unconscious level, that it's actually okay right now. And just that is a whole level of starting to release some of the stress, tension, trauma on an organismic level before then we even go into what was the meaning that you made of it or did you to work through hard memories.
So most of these people then have a more highly activated sympathetic nervous system, or were there in do they tend to be in a more reactive type state as opposed to finding that calm when they before they start working with you, just not being aware that they're always vigilant, which is creating more of that stress, and as they move through it, they're able to find some calm in this body, and the parasympathetic comes in, and
Yeah.
am I off base there?
No, no, I think, yeah, and partially I'm thinking some people come in and are more in hyperarousal and others are hypo, but even with hypo, often that's a response to activation toward the hyperarousal. So then the kind of freeze energy or chemicals come in. And so either way, it's about really bringing in more safety and into the nervous system. And I think I would say, yes, most people, first of all, my definition of trauma from a somatic perspective is the body mind's response to a life threatening or perceived life threatening experience that does not fully sequence or move through the body.
Mm.
Threatening or life threatening or perceived, that could be anything, not getting picked up fast enough when we're a baby could have been perceived as life-threatening at some point, or just being in an, dangerous or maybe even neglectful situation over time can create that level of activation. So, with that definition, first of all of us, all humans have some level of unprocessed, right,
Sure.
nervous system activation. And I would say most people, when they're coming into psychotherapy with me, they're coming because of the symptoms of that, and that
Mm.
they know what happened or why this started. Something in their life is not working, right? And typically, we go where their motivation is, where the juice is. But when we go there, often that is connected to not being able to stay present, maybe getting angry, not being able to tolerate care or love, so many different things. And so we start there, and I would say also the pace of our lives. And like you said, even at the beginning, the level that we are invited, even more than that, like drawn out of our bodies by the media, by all the different things, that just because of the pace, the level of news information that we get on a regular basis, all the ways that we have to distract ourselves, most people need support with how do we consciously regulate our own nervous system, and what does that even feel like to be regulated or dysregulated?
Oh, because 'cause we're so overloaded.
Yeah.
And what so I'll ask people, "What's your stress level on a scale from 1 to 10?" After they've sat and told me all this stuff happening, and they go, "I'm about a 4." And I just laugh and go, but people think that stress are these is like a big event happening
Right. Yes.
that you legit feel, "Oh my gosh," like you're stressed out due to that event or that situation. And
Right.
it's not, it's anything creating a reaction in the body. So us, like even me, like moving, we're creating stress here. It's good stress, right? But it's
Right.
still stress.
Exactly.
And so you're never gonna get away from it. But
Yeah.
how are you handling it? And that's what they don't know because they're so used to living like you I I used to be a stress stress management coach. And we
Oh,
talked about several years ago. And we talk about the stress threshold. So the stress threshold is here. And if you were to look, you'd see me holding my hand up like right in the middle of my face, parallel to the ground. And most of us are operating, we ideally actually want to be right under that threshold, right? Because stress is good. It keeps us motivated. It
right.
we need some, and there's some genetic
Yes.
types, if you don't have enough stress, your cognitive function is gonna be lesser, right? So we want some
Right.
stress, but I think so many people are consistently operating over that threshold, and that's their norm, and I've talked about it on here before, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself for some of you, but deal with it. But this is the norm, so they don't know, they just know that this is also the danger zone where you see these physical things start to happen, and I
Yeah.
think that's where you're talking about they're seeing symptoms. It's like,
Yeah.
where is this? And we're just so many are here when we need to
Yeah.
be underneath that just a little just come underneath that.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is bringing the awareness to, "Hey, I'm actually way up here."
Right. Yes.
And yeah, go ahead.
Exactly. Yeah, a couple things come up. One is there's a term in psychology called eustress,
Stress.
EUS, eustress, which is really good stress that you spoke to. And it's that it's energy, right? It's upregulation, which can be excitement, which can motivate us to do something, which is creative energy. And Fritz Perls, who created Gestalt therapy, he said that anxiety is excitement without the breath. And so
Aha.
think about when we're excited or when we're in our creativity, there is that activation. But the difference is we're typically breathing, we're moving, we're letting the flow come through. There's typically more embodiment. Whereas with the other type of stress, because we don't like it, we're doing the holding back, tightening our muscles. And this is where then the flow is not happening. So
Uh,
there's that piece. And then the other thing I was thinking about when you were talking about what you've been seeing in your work and practice, one of the conversations I have found myself having so much the last couple weeks with both clients and clinicians that I've been supervising, because I feel like almost everybody's a little stressed out in this moment, given the state of affairs in our country and our world. And if you think about our brains, our bodies, our nervous systems, they are built to manage the tiger outside our house, right? They're not built to know every horrible thing that is happening across the planet in one moment that we actually can't do a lot about many of the things.
right.
And so the level of threat and danger and information that's coming to us on the media, from even hearing from our neighbors, is actually not sustainable. We don't have enough space capacity to actually move that through. So I think given the way that our information flows these days, there is such a collective heightened activation happening. And then I think obviously we're seeing the impact of that, which is the overwhelming violence and or increasing
Yeah.
costs that's happening among other things, addiction, et cetera.
Oh, absolutely. Addictions through the roof. People want to medicate, like they'd rather self-medicate than work through this. And you're here in Colorado with me, and I want to get into the nature therapy. I told you that's my therapy, and I do videos up there. I'm like, I'm here for my nature therapy. I'm up at Rocky Mountain National Park. I'm up in Wyoming, and I'll do the 2-hour drive up to the Snowies
Yes.
because there's nobody on the road. And people are like, you're driving 2 hours to hike? Yep. Because I
Um,
have my time in the car, I can
yep,
listen to an audio, but whatever I choose to do at that time, that's just me time, and then I'm in this amazing setting. That's like a whole 8 hours of therapy there,
yeah,
and I laugh about it, but it's so liberating to
yes.
get out because we're seeing things. I didn't tell you, I'm a retired police officer, so I saw some nasty stuff.
Yeah.
The things that I was seeing, I've been retired, my gosh, 9 years now, over 9 years. The things that I would see, I would not want anybody else to see, let alone someone who's not, even if you're trained, you can't unsee or unhear these things. And
Right.
it's all we have just this stuff. If you can sit here and just keep watching a video over and over of an assassination. Like kids are seeing this and we wonder why the suicide rate in children, or they're becoming adults that are becoming addicted. And where I was going with being out in the wilderness, not it doesn't happen in Wyoming, but here in Colorado, I have gotten to my lake or my top of my mountain, and I just sit there, and all of a sudden I'll hear people come up and I'm smelling weed.
Uh-huh.
And I'm turning around and going, really? Why? Why do you need to take yourself out of this amazing reality? What is it? And it makes me sad because I think, what are you having to escape? There's someone below me that they're firing up that joint at 5 a.m.
Right.
The Al Bar shooting, those people were in the bar, shot and killed at 10:30 in the morning. This is where we are, we're needing to numb. And
Yeah.
so I think the work that you're doing to bring this awareness in, why are we numb? And they're the ones that I think are so low, where we have, I said there's that overstimulated
Uh-huh.
stress, central nervous system, and then you have those where you said they're kind of like frozen down here. They're numb and they continue to want to be numbed.
Yes.
And there's that happy medium in there, which is, I think, where you're trying to go and be aware of this is living and flowing
Yeah.
without the prolonged, ah, or numb.
And I think I always love to look at what is the wisdom at the impulse of everything, because then it gives us a lot more choices of how do we meet that need or that impulse. And I think about addiction, there's both the numbing and then there's the feeling something, right? And so either one, I just think about for some people, if they never had safety in their life, right? If they grew up in a home or in a culture or society or with serious oppression, that in their whole nervous system has developed around a sense of overwhelm or a sense of freeze or activation that I think
Yes.
especially for folks who then addiction becomes such a way of life because it's literally, for some people, like the only way that they have had to really escape those spaces of dysregulation. And obviously, there's a spectrum, but really looking at the heart of what are we trying to do? What are we trying to feel more calm? Are we trying to feel more alive? And whatever that is, start to get curious about what are other ways to do that or additional ways to do that. Because I think a lot of people, especially again with a lot of intense trauma, don't necessarily have an experience of that in a healthy way or hope or trust that things could actually be different when they haven't experienced that in their life. So I have
Yeah, very true.
and along with the yeah, desire for I'm such a person that does psychoeducation because I'm like, if we understand what's happening, there's more likelihood that we'll walk into those hard places because we know there's a possibility or we know where we're going. And so I think really understanding the nervous system and genetics and the impact of resourcing and nature, all those things actually gives us a little bit more of a chance or oh, okay, this is where I'm going. This is what this is going to help me do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we are all so unique.
Yes.
And no two people are going to have the same experience. So the more you can understand about you, number one, how you're created, whether it's your DNA, how you're formed in the womb, your predominant hormones that drive you, your whys, why maybe you react to these things. And then when you take it further where you are and creating awareness around now, this is how I am reacting. I tell people the more you know, like you don't know what you don't know
Yeah.
until you know it. And I've
Right.
never had anybody say, "God, I wish I wouldn't have done this," or "I wish I would have done d I wish I didn't know about me." Like, right? It's like
Right. Right.
and I just say, "God, I can't imagine how much probably easier life would have been had I understood why
Yes.
I am how I am."
It brings compassion, it brings validation, understanding, choice, all of the things. There's often
Yeah.
to normalization, relief, again, increased self-compassion. Yeah.
I'll never forget the first person that said to me, "I feel like I have permission to be myself for the first time in my 54 years." And that's profound. You think how much influence has society or family had on you that you
Yeah.
felt that you needed permission from an epigenetic coach to say, "Hey, it's okay to sleep in. It's okay to have a slow start to your morning. You don't have to be like me,
Right,
on
right.
fire, like," right? "Don't try.
Yes.
Trust me."
Yeah, yes.
I
Yes.
apologize to people who are married to people like me. I'm like, "I'm so sorry." Um But so tell us, let's get into the nature therapy because I have been chomping at the bit for this. Tell us about on your website, it's termed wilderness therapy. So however you want to put it, let's talk about that because I'm just excited.
Yes. Great. This is actually a very great place to start because in some places in my website it says wilderness and other places it says nature-based therapy. When I originally started, so I've been working in this field. I've been working in nature for over 30 years. I
Oh
started
wow.
an outward bound instructor and worked with several different organizations doing ropes course, challenge course events, backpacking trips, canoeing trips, all sorts of things. And from there, went into becoming a somatic therapist and started weaving nature, connection, adventure into my work. And at that time in the professional fields, it was termed either adventure therapy or wilderness therapy. And So that's what people were familiar with. That's what they were looking for. Eco psychology really just was termed in the 80s and then really has just become more popular in the last like maybe 15 years or so. So originally I was calling it wilderness therapy, but as time went on in my practice, what I found was that I really wanted to make it accessible for everyone. And so the more and more my work was becoming around relationship with nature versus much adventure in my psychotherapy. So then I shifted to really calling what I did more nature-based therapy. And so a year and a half ago, I changed the name of my business from Somatic Wilderness Therapy Institute to Somatic Nature Therapy Institute. So I will say there are now degrees in nature-based therapy, ecotherapy, adventure therapy, and I taught in 2 different graduate programs pretty much from the beginning of them in 2003 and 2004. And but still a lot of people have been doing it. It's a grassroots, just like somatic therapy started, but a lot of people having their own relationship with nature or adventure experiences, having ahas, peak experiences, saying, I felt connected to spirit, or I climbed this mountain, and if I could do this, I could do anything. And really, the field developed and evolved from people saying, if this is good for me, maybe this is good for my clients. And now it's really evolved into an actual body of work, research, professional organizations, degree programs.
I had no idea. I because we joke around and go, "I need some nature therapy." I had no idea that you can get degreed
Yes.
in nature therapy around the
Yes.
wilderness.
Roper University, just down the road from us in Boulder, Colorado. They have a master's program. That was one of the ones I started teaching in. They were the first, as far as I know, master's degree in that arena ever.
I was last month, I hiked the Chief Mountain, which is Idaho Springs, and I love that. It's not a long hike, but it's up there altitude-wise, but when you get up there, views are nothing short of breathtaking. And there was an old man up there with a younger woman. He called her his adopted granddaughter, quote, and I just started talking to him, and I actually ended up doing, like, a 6-minute interview. He was 83. The day before, he'd hiked a 14er.
Oh my gosh. People in Colorado are beyond. Oh my
Right?
god. Next level.
And I said, "Why? What drives you?" Because I wanted to know what these older people, what is it for them? What keeps you vibrant like this? And he said, "I wake up, first thing I do is thank God for another day here," because he just turned 83. And then he said, "And I come up here, I come to the top of the mountain and I thank my creator again." And he said, "Because here I am." And he said, "If you're not happy," and I said, "Say this again to the camera." He goes, "If you're not happy, whose fault is it? You can't blame anybody else, right?" It's you, it's where you are. And it was just these little profound nuggets he had, but he's don't drink, don't do this. I try to eat, I get a good night's sleep, but he's up early. But it was just really interesting to listen to that. But that's his way. The first thing he does, he gets up and he goes outside. He said he thanks God for another day here, and then he goes outside.
Oh my goodness, that is so beautiful.
And he was just so inspiring and had lost his wife. Anyway, it was just really neat. So, how does the nature therapy actually work? And what are the benefits that you get from that?
Oh, what a great question. So I could talk to you for hours about this. Uh, but nature therapy, there are many ways to do this, and I teach a lot of clinicians. So the first thing I say is some people literally just sit outside with their clients or walk and talk with their clients. And there is absolutely a benefit to physiologically, to moving, to breathing fresh air, to having the like spontaneous movements and sounds in nature be all around. And well, we also have our historical and personal associations with nature, but for many people, when we are in connection with that, it's naturally regulating and it lowers our cortisol. There's a lot just literally doing whatever we're doing outside, breathing the fresh air. There's a impact from also the smells, being able to smell
Mm.
consciously, unconsciously, the trees, the grass has a calming effect. It increases the immune system, etc. And then a lot for me, I will often bring people's attention to nature, and that can look it could be one way is opening our senses, and when we open our senses, it brings us into our bodies, it brings us into the present moment, which helps increase our sense of safety, increase
Yeah.
our resourcing, and then we get to feel or look around for what pleases us. Keep our attention there. Notice what happens when we pay attention to what pleases us. So that's one that I use all the time because it helps with nervous system regulation, resourcing, etc. And then often I'll have people look for metaphors. So if they're speaking about their anxiety or a situation that they feel stuck and we're walking or sitting, I might say, look around the space and see if you can see something, or let's move around the space, find something that represents dot, 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 whatever that is, their anxiety or their relationship or their stuckness. And when they find it, all of a sudden, there's this visual that starts to bring forth awareness, nuances, metaphors that they can speak to. And often illuminates some of the pieces that were more unconscious, brings forth ahas. Also, often there is a normalization. So if someone's working with death, or if they're working with, again, maybe loss of some aspect of their life, when we can look for that in nature and start to see the possibilities that that actually brings forth. That in nature, there's always life and death and cycles. And it's an opportunity for new growth, right? For something else to come up, for gratitude. So much metaphor. Also, I'll have people talk to nature. So, literally go out and maybe talk to a tree and tell it about its story. Or
Literally tree hugging, Katie.
I do have people hug trees. Yes, that's an attachment intervention. Feel the earth because it's right here. So it can look so many different ways. And then, like I said, I used to do a lot more adventure, which is in adventure therapy, the the catalyst for healing is actually more the movement and the metaphor of what you're doing, what you're accomplishing, what you do when stress and doubt comes up. So that's another way that people are also engaging in nature therapy.
Would that be doing something like if you're afraid of heights to actually go to the top of something or do I saw where you had mentioned in your online bio on your website, you had talked about being afraid of heights. I am as well, and you did the rope
Oh, yes. Yes.
the rope course or something. I can picture it plain as day what you're talking about, but I can't remember what you called it, but it's a rope course, which is gonna be frightening, but yet that's something you can accomplish. So something like that
Yes, in
would
fact, that story, so I was in college, I was 19, I did my first ever high challenge course, was totally afraid, had never done any climbing or anything like that. I was in Ohio and years ago, and at the end of that day, I said, "This is what I wanna do with my life." And I didn't even really know what that meant, but I realized later it was be outdoors, push myself, push people past what they believe they can do, and so self-growth and all the components. And so, yeah, that was a totally pivotal, life-changing moment for me to be up in that challenge.
and so those types of adventures you also would do with people to give them those life-changing moments of maybe even, "Wow, I've been living in fear for so long, and I really can step out of that fear box and do accomplish what I want and
Yes,
be in tune with my body."
yes, and I could go on about this for ages, but there is something really profound in this particular question that I wanna unpack a little bit.
Yes.
So when at the end of really working in more of the outdoor education arena, like in Outward Bound, and I worked at a place called Women's Wilderness Institute in Boulder, Colorado, and was studying psychology. I was studying somatic psychology. So I was learning so much about everything we've been talking about here. And I started making the goals of my courses choice, conscious choice. And so the goal of getting on a rock climb was not to get to the top. It was to notice what are your choices and how do you feel about them and how are you making them? Are you making them out of peer pressure? Are you making them because your body's giving you information? And what's it like to honor your choice? And often what I found was when people were pushed to get to the top of the climb or get to the top of the challenge course, get through, they would go in some people would go into a freeze response and overwhelm or have a panic attack, but when their boundaries were honored, the majority of people would come down, they'd take some breaths, and they'd go, wait a minute, let me try again. I think I could get further next time." And got to see how it's a fine line of pushing ourselves, but also honoring our boundaries and how that actually creates trust and self trust and safety, which then ultimately allows us to take greater risks in the end.
And that's living. That's what we're here for.
Yes. Yes.
That's when we're living.
Exactly.
Exactly. So what are the benefits? What would you say are, like, the top benefits you could get from it's I guess if we start to close out here, from nature therapy, somatic therapy, what would you pull from that?
Like I said earlier, I think the more of our experience we include, the more of our person, body, mind, spirit that we include, the more flow there's going to be, the more integration there's going to be. And so, again, with nature therapy, whether it's sitting, walking, adventuring, we're in our bodies more, right? We're breathing more deeply. We're more engaged. We're more present. We're more action oriented or in
Yeah.
the present. So I think for me, that in and of itself just is super powerful. And then I also do nature connection and somatic work in the office. But again, for me, when we are including the somatic awareness, sometimes that's movement, sometimes that's just breath, we are expanding our felt sense of ourself. We're expanding what we can tolerate. We're inviting that flow in. And I just feel like there's more aliveness that is then accessible for us, more choice around our lives.
And there's the flow.
Yes. Yes.
Instead of the smashing up against the wave and being knocked back over and over,
Yes.
you start to say, I got this. And I feel it. Here's the wave coming. It's okay. I'm cruising. I'm gonna go over. I'm not gonna get capsized again and be
Right.
struck under the water. I grew up on the beach, so I picture this.
All these beach
I'd
metaphors.
be riding a boogie board, like, taking a boogie board out, and all of a sudden, here comes a wave, and you don't catch it in time, and you're underneath, and you're going around, you're like, "I'm gonna die under here, I can't breathe," and it's awful.
Yeah.
But when you catch that wave and you're like, "I'm just gonna ride it and enjoy it. I might get hammered at the end, but I'm gonna enjoy the ride for now." You
Right.
really it really is a big difference from
Mm.
trying to beat that wave at smash, just go, let it hit me and hurt, or to just flow. And we are here as humans to experience this life. And too many people sell themselves short and say, I just want to get through life. That's sad because if you're here, sadly, at 70 years, like, that's young, right? We want to be here for a long time. And if you're here for 80, 90 years and you're just, quote, getting by, like trying to get through life, I think to me, that's a life not as well lived as one could be. And we all deserve to be our best, most radiant, because that's what we put out there in the world. And other people need to be able to get that from us as well.
Yes. And as you say that, I just feel the importance for all of us, but for many to have allies in that. Because again, if we grew up and we didn't get life mirrored or our brilliance mirrored to us, then how do we see it? How do we know it? And so often we do need therapist, coach, whoever to take our hand and go, let me show you what is actually possible here. Because if we haven't experienced it, like you said earlier, we don't even know what we don't know.
Yeah. And I'm sure you hear this too. People get done working with you and they're like, "Oh my god, thank you so much. I'm so grateful for what all you did for me." And I go, "I didn't do it. You did it. I just helped bring out all the great that was in there
Yes.
that was hidden."
Yes.
And, they're doing the work. I just feel blessed, as I'm sure you do, to be one of the parts of their journey to help them
Yeah.
see who they are and these beautiful things. Because you said earlier about how we talk to ourselves. You were, how you say, I'm trying to remember what the words were because I know I'll get it wrong. But basically, what went through my head at the time was, we're so our worst critics. We're so not nice to ourselves. And I've heard people say in a session things like, "Would you talk to your friend like that? Your friend would tell you to F off. Fuck you. Like, how could you talk to me like that?" So, why is it okay for us to talk to ourselves like that? And so,
Right.
the more self love you can give, and these things where we all want to fit in and we're different, they're the parts that make us us. And we need
Yes.
to embrace that and love that and know, like, these quirks. So what? If I'm not your cup of tea, it's okay. There's plenty of
Right.
other types of tea out there.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm not black tea, green tea,
Right.
chai tea. I'm a combination of a whole bunch of 'em. Probably the one that's gonna be the spiciest and hit you in the throat, and that's right? And you're gonna be more of a gentle oolong,
Yes.
right? With
Yes.
a little kick, and that's okay. There's different types of tea for everybody. We don't need to be fitting into what we think everybody wants, because the people, like you said, your group, they're the ones you wanna surround yourself with, they're the ones that are gonna accept and love you for that, and pump you up for why you are that way,
Exactly.
instead of putting you down.
Exactly. And that is the biggest gift ever, I think, that somebody can get in their lifetime is to really know that in their bones.
Yeah. Yeah. So, if someone now, do you work with anybody online or are you all in person?
No, we work I say we, I have a group practice also and a educational institute, Somatic Nature Therapy Institute, and we work online, in the office, and outdoors on the trails around Boulder, and we do weekly sessions, we do intensives, do a lot of trainings for therapists and healers both online since COVID as well as in person. We do retreats, wilderness quest retreats where people take solo time in nature for part of that. So people can work with us from many different places.
No kidding. And you said also groups. So you could have a group, if you have a group of friends or work and you want to experience this,
Yes.
get a hold of you and come to Boulder, Colorado, and
Yes.
you can't go wrong.
Exactly. You can also fly me out to wherever you are. I do that as
Oh,
well.
really?
Yes. So definitely do a lot of custom experiences for people. I've taught around the world for a couple decades, and one of my favorite things is doing
Love
group
that.
experiences. Yeah, so
I
many.
love that.
Yeah.
And then also, you said you train people as well. So if you're a practitioner listening or a coach or something who wants to bring this into your practice, you can also reach out through the website. And I did see spots on there for that. So what's your website?
Somaticnaturetherapy.com.
And any social media or any other props you want to give? Because we will have all of this in the show notes. It's just some people are like, yeah, I don't want to go to the show notes. Just tell me.
Yes, yes. So we are on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Pinterest, all of the above. And I'm not exactly sure the handle, but if you look up Somatic Nature Therapy Institute, you will definitely find it.
Fantastic. This has been such a I've just enjoyed this so much, and your energy. If you guys, if you're not watching this, go into YouTube and just tune in, because Katie's energy coming through the screen, I mean, like I said that when we got on, it's just like she just has a great energy, and the colors are really pretty behind her, they're my jam.
Oh, thank you.
Just a great energy coming through that I think you pick up on just by seeing her, very vibrant and calming at the same time. But I'm so grateful to have you join me today, and this was so informative and something new to me, but closer to my heart than I realized. And so
Yes.
thank you for what you're doing and for helping people also find their flow in a different way.
Yes,
So
thank you. Thank you for what you are doing, and likewise, it was such a joy and pleasure to have this conversation with you.
love it. Love it. Again, we'll have all the info in the show notes so you can reach out to Katie, go to her website, and everybody get out there, make it a great day, and be your most authentic self. Thank you for joining us. So, this is me reporting back on what I experienced in the nature therapy session yesterday. And I didn't record this right after. Actually, it's the next day. I'm not even sure where to begin. It was I didn't know what to expect because I'd never experienced anything like that before. And it was much more than I would have imagined. My goal was to release, let go, let God, just relinquish some control. Because the more we try to control things, the more resistance we create. And that's been really big for me this year, feeling lack of control over so many things that have happened in my life in this last year. And what I found so amazing was and Jess, I just can't say enough about Jess and Kelsey. They are phenomenal. So when we went out, we went to this spot out in the middle of nowhere with these amazing views of the mountains in Boulder. And there were leafless trees around, dead leaves on the ground. The wind was like a freight train. Not ideal, but it worked. And so Jess actually had given me instructions, and we all participated in the first exercise. And it was so crazy because it created awareness with my body and with my surroundings, connecting with my mind in a way that I've never experienced in 60 years. And I'm standing in the same place, and yet I'm feeling, sensing different things coming to me and sensing things with my body in front of me. On the left side of me was completely different than the right. And then behind me. And when it was behind me, I just kept getting this vision of like me, a vision of kind of me just looking and going, stop, stop, quit looking backwards. And yet in front of me with my eyes closed, there was a vastness of like possibilities. Coolest thing ever. And then they had me, and then the other 2 talked about their awareness with that, what they experienced. And then the last part was for me to just take in that nature and have it do whatever I felt compelled to do, if that was anything. For me, it was like sitting, but it was the difference in how I was sitting. Like this, wrapped around my legs with my head down. By the end, 8 minutes it was, I was back in an open and kind of released position. And I will tell you the after effects because I was tired yesterday. I didn't sleep well the night before. It's been a weird week with sleep. And I don't know if it was a crazy full moon or what, but anyway, regardless, I was pretty tired yesterday. But I was energetic when I met them. Just such good energy that I felt really good. And so I ate some lunch in my car afterwards, and I felt good. I was like, wow, I just feel like I had some release of something. I just felt different. Really felt so much closer to God. They knew I had told them that God, Jesus, like just such huge parts of my life now. And so we incorporated that into it too. And I just felt just so close. Anyway, so I go to leave. It's 2:30 in the afternoon, so it's still light out. I can't stay awake on the way home. And it wasn't just I feel a little tired. It was like, holy crap. Something It was just like, I don't know if it was exhaustion because I maybe just let go so much. I have no idea. But I was like, out. And it's a 50 min it was like an hour because it was rush hour by the time I came back. No, it was like a 50-minute drive home. I came home and I couldn't even record this. I was just so physically and mentally out of it, but the funny thing is the one thing I had on my mind that I told them about the dude from 9 months in this last year that lied about everything to me was really bugging me, and I didn't think about him at all, and I didn't think about it when I came home. I didn't even think about it till this morning. In only the manner of, "Oh my god, I hadn't thought about it." And so I think I released so much. I was exhausted, but I slept, like, amazing last night, woke up fully recovered. So I just gosh, if you have a chance, it's really a very unique experience, and again, this was just one session for me, but I'm so in tune with my body, with my mind-body connection, and I'm able to express this stuff. So other people, I'm sure it's going to take a while, but I can take the different things that we went through, these experiences, and even deepen my solo experiences when I'm hiking by myself and pretty soon snowshoeing or cross country skiing and just being, because we are human beings, not human doings, right? I'm just made to be a human doer. So to be able to create that peace for me that overtook me so overwhelmingly, that's my feedback. And just, again, just so supportive and just loving, great soul vibes from these two. And so that was my experience with my first nature therapy. I would absolutely do it again. And I think it's a wonderful way for you to tune in and really learn about you and your body and your mind and how all this connects so much. So thank you for listening. So get out there, make it a great day, and be your most authentic self. Have a great day. Thanks so much for tuning into my podcast. If you enjoyed this week's episode, I'd love for you to share it with someone who would find the information useful. Also, if you could leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts, it'll help the information get out to others. You can check out my podcast site and sign up for my newsletter for updates and upcoming shows, and that link is in the show notes below. And go make it a great day and let your authentic self shine.